3 times strangers were inside my home when the locks don't mean anything. My name is David, and I'm going to tell you 3 stories about the most terrifying realization any person can have. The realization that someone else has been in your home, not breaking in. Not a burglary in the traditional sense, but something far more insidious than that. Someone was there, in your space, while you slept, while you were at work, while you were just living your life completely unaware that your home was no longer your sanctuary. 3 separate incidents, 3 different people, 3 different situations, but all of them share one common thread. The person who realized too late that they were never truly alone. If you think your locks protect you, these stories will change your mind. If you think you would notice an intruder, think again. Hit subscribe and turn on notifications, because what you're about to hear is about the moments when someone's worst nightmare becomes a reality. The moments when realizing the truth is almost worse than living in ignorance. These are 3 times strangers were inside my home. Story 1, the missing cereal. I lived alone in a small house in Upper Wisconsin. It was in a small community with a couple dozen houses scattered through the area, but it was a few miles away from town. I had been living in that same house for about 4 years, and for the most part I hadn't had any issues. I liked not being in a busy area. I liked having trees surrounding the community. It felt peaceful, quiet, safe. I worked a normal 9-to-5 job, which meant driving into town most days and getting home around 6. This all happened last year, and afterwards I sold my house and moved closer to town because the thought of it happening again still gives me chills. One morning I woke up at my usual time to get ready for work. I had my breakfast, a bowl of cereal. Nothing special, just my normal routine. Then I drove into town. At 5 o'clock, I started the drive back home. The sun was setting. By the time I pulled into my driveway, it was dark out. I headed inside, dropped my bag on the kitchen chair, then started searching through the pantry for something to eat for dinner. As I looked through the shelves, though, I noticed something odd. The box of cereal I had for breakfast wasn't where I remembered putting it. Actually, it wasn't anywhere at all. I looked around the kitchen for a minute, just really confused, thinking that I was losing my mind. I got frustrated after a bit, and I gave up. I made a quick dinner, tried to enjoy it, tried to move on with the rest of my night. At 10 o'clock, my eyes were getting really heavy, so I turned off the TV and stumbled into the kitchen to fill up my water bottle before bed. Then I went over to the back door to turn off the back porch lights. But just before I switched them off, I saw something. Far back at the edge of the yard, a figure standing among the trees, just past the reach of the lights. I froze. I stared at this silhouette for several seconds, trying to make out details, trying to understand what I was looking at. Then I saw the figure walk away, deeper into the forest. It was really strange, and it gave me chills, but I wasn't really sure what exactly had even happened. I was more confused than anything. Had someone actually been there, or was it a deer? A shadow. My mind playing tricks on me, I switched off the lights and went to bed. In the morning, I got ready for work again and went downstairs. But when I opened the pantry, the box of cereal was there, the one that I thought had been missing. It was sitting right where I had left it. I figured I just missed it somehow, quickly ate breakfast, and went to work. But all day I sat at my desk thinking about it. The more I thought of it, the more sure I was that it was not there yesterday. I had looked everywhere. I had been frustrated because I couldn't find it, and now it was back. Then the figure by my house came to mind, and that only got me more freaked out. It was Friday though, so I had the weekend to relax and collect myself. At 4, my boss let the staff go home early, which was a big relief for me because I couldn't focus anyway. I drove home, getting there just before 5. As soon as I stepped through the door, though, something was off. I didn't know what, but I could just feel it. A presence, something out of place. I walked into the kitchen, and everything seemed to be in place. Then I heard it, a noise, coming from the living room. My heart started racing. "Hello," I called out. It was quiet again. I stepped slowly to the entryway of the living room and scanned the room. Nothing obvious, no movement, no sign of anyone. I took a few more steps in, walking carefully through, checking behind everything. There was nothing and no one. I went back by the front door, preparing to check upstairs when I heard sudden footsteps, shuffling through the kitchen. I turned my head and looked down the hallway. A man was standing at the far end, looking at me. For a moment, time seemed to stop. It was like my brain and body just shut down for a second as we stared at each other. He was tall, thin, with dark clothing, and an expression on his face that I couldn't quite read. But there was something in his eyes, something that told me he didn't expect to be seen. I didn't think. I just reacted. I spun around and swung open the front door. I heard his footsteps coming up behind me as I sprinted out of the house and ran all the way to my neighbor's house. They called the police for me and let me stay with them until they arrived. The man was gone by then. Of course he was. But the police found evidence. One of the window hinges to the back bedroom was broken. It allowed access to the home even when the window was locked. They also found disturbing evidence of the man having likely been spending hours inside my house, eating my food, moving things around, living in my space while I was gone. There was no way to tell how long it had been going on for. The police couldn't determine a timeline. They couldn't figure out if this had been happening for weeks, or months, or years. After that, I put my house up for sale and stayed with some relatives until I was able to move. I don't know if that man was planning to harm me, if he was just living in my house because he could, if he had some kind of obsession with me. But I could never shake the sight of him standing at the end of my hallway, staring at me with those dead eyes. Story 2, The Girl at 16. I was 16 at the time, and I lived with my single mom in an apartment. I was an only child, and my mom worked 2 jobs, so I was left home alone pretty often. Once I got old enough to take care of myself, I was never scared of being alone, mostly because I was in an apartment complex with a lot of other people living above and below me. There was always someone around, always someone nearby if something went wrong. On this day, my mom was working both jobs. When she got out of her first shift at 2, she went straight to her next shift, the one that started at 3 and ended at 11. It was summer, so I was out of school. I didn't have a car or anything, so all I could really do was walk around or stay home. I spent most of my morning watching TV, and I even took a short nap. At 6, I was getting hungry for dinner. We didn't have much of anything for me to eat, though, so I took some cash off the counter and walked to the grocery store. It was a 40-minute walk, but at least the weather was nice. I got something small to snack on, as well as a frozen meal, then started the walk back. It was already dark out, but the whole road home was well lit, and it wasn't in a dangerous area. So I wasn't worried. I had done this plenty of times before, but halfway back I recognized something that made my stomach drop. A man walking away behind me was taking all the same turns as me. At first I told myself it was just a coincidence. People walk home from the store all the time. But as I picked up my pace, I never seemed to lose him. He matched my speed. He took every turn I took. He was always there. A few feet behind, the final road led straight to the apartment complex, and there was nothing else down there. But he still trailed behind me. I was nervous, but also aware that it was most likely just someone else who lives in one of the apartments. People live there. It made sense that he would be going there too. I got to the entrance and went up to my room. I knew everyone who lived in my complex, or at least what they looked like. So I knew that whoever that man was, he couldn't get inside if he even was trying to follow me. The building had security, a buzzer system. You needed a code to get in. I took my frozen meal out and started heating it up in the microwave. About a minute went by before I heard a buzz from the room below me, then from my room, and then the one above me. It was someone at the entrance door, requesting to be buzzed in. This was something people would do often. If they forgot their keys, they would ring all of the rooms, hoping that someone would be kind enough to buzz them in. I waited for a moment, then heard the faint sound of the entrance door unlocking and opening. Someone let them in. I walked around and put my ear against the door, listening carefully. I heard him knock at one of the rooms downstairs. Then someone answered. It was extremely difficult to hear any specific words, but at one point I could have sworn I heard my name. My heart started racing. The door downstairs closed, and footsteps started coming up the stairs. They walked right up to my door and stopped. I backed away from the door and tried to be quiet. He knocked again. "Hello, your mom asked me to check up on you," he said through the door, his voice calm, his tone matter of fact. "Can you just answer the door and let me know you're all right? Please." Not to make this sound bad, but my mom would never randomly send someone to check up on me while she was so busy with work. She was at her second job. She was barely taking breaks. The idea that she would arrange for someone to come by and check on me was absurd. This was definitely something bad. I moved to the opposite corner of the room and dialed 911. The man continued knocking and calling out for me as the police were on their way. At one point, he even started kicking the door, as if trying to knock it down. I was terrified, and I locked myself in my room. Eventually, the knocking stopped. Officers showed up a few minutes later. The woman living in the room downstairs told the officers that the man said he was a babysitter. He had asked her if she knew which room was mine. He knew my name and everything, so she didn't even think not to trust him. It's pretty clear, though, that he was probably trying to kidnap me. Unfortunately, they had no way of identifying the man, aside from the woman's description, so he was never found. It still creeps me out, though, wondering how the man knew my name and how he knew that my mom wasn't home. How long had he been stalking me for? And is he still? Story 3. The Dog Sitter. I'm 31 years old now, and this happened when I was 29, back in 2020. My friend, let's call her Stacy, told me that she had a friend named Brienne who needed a dog sitter. Brienne and her husband were going on a vacation to California. Stacy knew that I dog sat on an app called Rover. It's an app where you house sit random strangers' dogs. Walk them, you name it. I thought it was the perfect opportunity. Since I was in need of some cash, $200 to dog sit for 5 days, why not? Brienne showed me around her house a week before I dog sat, while also letting me meet her huge husky named Bear. I'm not going to lie, it was a big husky, a little overweight too, but still absolutely adorable. Brienne told me that I was welcome to help myself to whatever food I wanted. The front door also included a lock where you punch in a number code to get in, so it was pretty secure. A week rolls around, and I showed up late on a Friday night, not too long after Brienne and her husband left for California. Things were pretty chill for the first 2 days. I was at work for most of the afternoon, went to feed the dog on my break, came back later at night, took Bear for rides in my car. I stayed up late watching movies and let Bear sleep by me when it was time to go to bed. Everything was normal. Everything was fine. Anyway, after work on a Monday night, I hear a knock at the door. I look through the peephole, and it was a guy wearing what looked like a black police uniform. I thought it was a bit odd, but I opened the door to see what was up. "Hello, I'm looking for a George," he said. George, I thought. "Oh no, there's no George here," I said. "I'm dog sitting for a friend. I've been here since Friday." Looking back, it was pretty stupid to tell a random person at the door that I didn't know that I was alone in someone else's house. "Oh, that's cool," he said. "Okay, sorry to bother you." And then he left. I was slightly weirded out, and I locked the door. I texted Brienne about what just happened. She pretty much just said, "Oh, don't worry about it," and shrugged it off. I thought that was weird too, but I decided not to dwell on it. Things were normal again. Up until I went to bed Wednesday at midnight. As I was laying in bed, the thought kept coming to my mind that I should make sure the front door was locked. So I got up and checked it. Luckily it was, but I still had a weird vibe, a feeling I couldn't shake. I fell asleep. Then I woke up at 3:05 in the morning to the dog barking like crazy. It freaked me out a little. I thought someone had broken in. I got up and went to the living room where I saw Bear was growling and barking at the front door. I looked through the peephole and I saw the same guy, but this time there was another guy with him. Both of them were standing there in security guard uniforms. At this point, I was creeped out. Why would the same guy come back when he knew I was alone? Why would he come back at 3 in the morning? And why would he bring another person? I didn't bother opening the door this time. 2 guys I didn't know, dressed like security guards. At 3 in the morning, that was enough for me. I made sure all the doors were locked. I watched them through the peephole as they waited for a few minutes. Then they walked off. I opened the door slightly and didn't see any type of security car anywhere. No marked vehicle, no official car, nothing. I still have to think Bear's barking is what scared them off. If that dog hadn't been there, if he hadn't been alert, I don't know what would have happened. I went back inside and fell asleep. I didn't bother telling Brienne because she was in California anyway. I'm glad to say I only stayed 1 more night after that. To this day, I still don't know who those guys were or what they wanted, and I haven't been back to dog sit since that incident. Epilogue: the pattern. 3 stories, 3 different situations, 3 different people. but they all share something in common. In each case, someone was inside a space where they didn't belong. In the first story, a man had been breaking into a house for an unknown amount of time, eating food, moving things around, watching. In the second story, a man had been stalking a young girl for an unknown amount of time. He knew her name, he knew her routine, he knew her mother's schedule. In the third story, two men showed up at a stranger's house in the middle of the night, dressed as security guards looking for a person who didn't live there. What connects these stories isn't the danger itself. It's the violation. It's the realization that someone else had access to your space, to your routine, to your life. It's the knowledge that you are never as safe as you thought you were. The locks on your doors are just suggestions. They can be broken, they can be picked, they can be bypassed. The security systems are only as good as the people using them. And sometimes the people using them don't realize they're letting in a predator. In the first story, the intruder was only discovered by accident, by pure chance. Because the man happened to still be inside when the homeowner came home. If he had left 5 minutes earlier, it might have continued indefinitely. In the second story, the stalker was never caught. He's still out there somewhere, still knowing that girl's name, still knowing her address. In the third story, we don't know what those men wanted. We don't know if they would have forced their way in if the dog hadn't been barking. We don't know if they would have tried again. The scariest part about all of these stories isn't what happened. It's what could have happened. It's the knowledge that the outcome could have been so much worse. Here's what I want you to understand. Your home is not as secure as you think it is. The person you let into your building might not be who they say they are. The man asking for someone at your door might be scouting your apartment. The person dog-sitting might have given out your security code. Trust your instincts. If something feels off, it probably is. Don't open the door for someone you don't know, no matter what uniform they're wearing. Don't tell strangers that you're home alone. Don't assume that just because you're in an apartment complex, you're safe. And most importantly, if you feel like something is wrong, act on that feeling. Don't rationalize it away. Don't convince yourself that you're being paranoid. Don't wait until it's too late. Because the difference between a close call and a tragedy is often just a few minutes, just a moment of hesitation, just one decision made differently. Stay safe, and remember, the people who hurt you are counting on you not believing it could happen. Don't give them that advantage.